Welcome to Wrestling Over Everything, everybody. We are a very funny and very congested podcast out of the Central Valley of California that talks about wrestling. I'm Andrew. That's Dusty.
Hey.
Subscribe. All right. So
Subscribe.
I gave you a second to go subscribe. But subscribe to our stuff. And Dusty's what was it at WOE Wrestling on Blue Sky?
Yeah, you can find it at WOE Wrestling. It's got all the rest of the stuff. At the
Blue Sky
Social.
They gotta stop doing that. Like, why do we need the end? If the end is the same for everybody, why do we need that? You know?
Yeah, I mean, if you type it in, I'm on there making some predictions. Having some thoughts.
Yeah, if you like thoughts, go to Dusty on Blue Sky. If you like thoughts, go to Twitter. That's where they are. We are also on Twitter at WOE Wrestling. There's an underscore, I think. Who cares, right? Just subscribe to our channel. Okay, that's the big thing. Dusty, off the rip.
Yeah.
First of all, by the way, also, I have a cold. I'm trying not to sound like I have a cold. I did my show on my radio show today. Sounded mostly fine. If my camera might go away because I'm blowing my nose, and I'm not gonna blow my nose into the microphone. Okay, we're just disclaimer.
You're not gonna honk. You're not a honker.
that is fun. It's always funny.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen on Norm Macdonald's podcast? He gave a Chevy Chase a hanky and told him, "Can you make this funny?" Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think I've ever seen
that. And Chevy
that.
just like nonchalantly takes it and he puts it up to his mouth and he goes, "Help me!" And then he puts it on. It's pretty funny. But some guy named Chandran the Man on Twitter. I don't know if this is a good guy. I don't know if this is a bad guy. So if you hate the guy, if he said a bunch of bad things in the past, this is the only tweet I've ever seen. But he said, if Twitter existed during peak Stone Cold, people would have called him Stone Hogan and complained he was always in the title scene. Meanwhile, they'd be begging for Scotty 2 Hotty to get a title run because, quote unquote, he's over. I'm just glad social media wasn't a thing during that era. What do you think about that, Dusty?
Well, I don't, yes, Steve Austin was always in the title picture. He was also the most over guy in the company. So, and he didn't always win.
That's true. It's not like Stone Cold was a guy that had to be forced on the viewership. Like everybody loved when they heard the glass shatter, right?
And they weren't tired of him by the time he turned heel. That's considered one of the biggest oofs in wrestling history whenever he turned heel in the middle of like what his hottest run could have been.
What did JR say? He's shaking hands with the devil himself.
Yeah. And the story going into it was good. Stone Cold's like, I'd do anything to win the title, up to and including teaming up with Vince McMahon. But people hated that, and Stone Cold says now he should have read the room and just given Vince the stunner called the audible
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I don't think it's the same thing as Hulk Hogan. Yes, this guy is right. There would have been people with shitty takes back in the Attitude Era because there are people with shitty takes throughout history. They're just, it's harder to see them all of the time, except for now. Now we're subjected to everyone's terrible takes, including sometimes mine. Who knows?
Yeah, I thought the Scotty 2 Hotty line was like interesting because like it's an interesting thought because the crowd does like will certain things into existence now that they didn't have the power to do before, it seems. So like they might, I don't know if a guy like I don't know, because I love Scotty 2 Hotty when I was a kid. He's got a furry hat. He does the worm. Right. What else do I need?
He's hilarious.
He's got really good political opinions. Everybody knows. But yeah, he's funny. He's got a furry hat and he does a stupid dance, right?
Yeah, he definitely doesn't take things personally.
Yeah. Was he a novel? He's got great friends all around him. Was he a novelty act then? Like in terms of like, or did 29-year-olds think Scotty 2 Hotty was cool?
Well, I think like, I think it's kind of like everything, like a rising tide raises all boats, right? So like everything was kind of cool.
Yeah.
In the moment of the Attitude Era because wrestling itself was so cool. Like, if you think about Rikishi's just a huge dude who wears a thong in the ring, and then he started doing like a dance, and he started putting his butt in everybody's face, and that guy was very over in like 99 and 2000. But he's not like there's not a lot of depth to that character,
I
you
was thinking
know.
about that the other day. I can't believe we let the stink face happen. Like where that was like the thing that everyone's like, "Oh fuck, bro,
Yeah,
he's hitting him with the stink face."
and he
People
could
bought shirts that had a stink face on it. I guarantee it.
right, yeah, because it's like in that moment the hysteria of it is so big that it doesn't matter, you know. But I don't think like I there was never a ground swelling of like, man, Scotty Too Hotty's such a great worker. I mean, he's a good worker, but there wasn't like he wasn't underappreciated or seen as a guy who was not getting what he deserved to get, if that makes sense. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
back that ass up.
it's just an awful shirt. It says "back that ass up" on the front. On the back, it has the WWE.com logo. It says Rikishi, and it's got Rikishi's ass like
Yeah,
at the bottom part where the ass of the shirt is.
this
But
definitely doesn't pass my test of wrestling shirts that I would wear in public.
I would never know.
You know,
I wouldn't wear this shirt in private. My cat
right?
would attack me.
Sure. I like. I think Sami Zayn is a guy that's a better comparison. Or in the time, you'd have like a Chris Benoit or an Eddie Guerrero, or guys where it's like this guy deserves to be higher on the card than he is, and they're stifling him. Like this guy's so much better than the guys around him.
Yeah.
You know, like WCW era Chris Benoit, it was so frustrating to watch him just put on incredible matches and never get above the US title level. Like he didn't touch the main event guys ever. And it was just like this dude's so good. Why, you know, and
Yeah.
of course, doesn't have to be said, but history, of course, deems out
Ball
not a
don't
great guy.
lie.
Right. But
That's like the biggest ball don't lie in history.
right. But like,
They gave him the title for a little bit though.
yeah,
No.
well, in
What?
WCW, they gave him the title to appease him, and then he left the next day.
Hell yeah, dude.
Like it was,
He's a rabid Wolverine. I don't want to
yeah,
act like what he did was cool. He killed his family, so I gotta
right,
stop doing that.
yeah. But like, same thing with Eddie Guerrero in WCW. Was like clearly this dude has something, or goddamn Rey Mysterio Jr. when they had him and he was at the peak of what he could do. It was just so frustrating that it was like he's never gonna wrestle Hulk Hogan. He's never gonna sniff this belt, you know.
Yeah.
And so Scotty Too Hotty had a good run in the tag division. His guys he was over. I'm sure he sold 1 million fluffy hats, you know,
Oh, I
like.
bet they sold so many fluffy hats, dude.
And so I don't think that it's an apt comparison, but it is just, yeah, of course there would have been, because there's shitty opinions every time, or there's you want to be a contrarian. Like everybody loved Stone Cold. There's not a person who was like, you know what, I don't think he's that cool. He was, you know, driving beer trucks and breaking his boss's Mercedes with cement. Like he was just cool.
Even now, you don't. I'm sure somebody can find one, but like most of the time, you don't hear. I don't know if I've ever heard cynical Stone Cold takes where it's like, well, actually, Stone Cold wasn't that good. Stone Cold was really just a mirror of the horrible surface level society that we lived in at the time. Like that guy, you
Right.
know,
It's not an NWO situation.
the
Like,
NWO stunk, 100% stunk.
yeah, it's
I love you, Scott Hall. The NWO stunk.
yeah. So yeah, I think that the greater point is probably true, but the examples might not be exact. You know, like people loved Goldberg at that particular moment in time, and all he did was smash guys. Like he was really the Hogan type dude, and people loved him, you know. And then they, you know, of course, famously messed that up. I think we'll get to that in one of these episodes, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
rest in peace, Bret Hart.
yeah,
We miss you.
it's
So speaking of, I don't even know how to tie this together. Speaking of bad wrestling decisions,
yeah. Yeah, and guys that didn't get their flowers when I mean they got flowers,
That would have
but
been the
like
perfect. That would have been that's better.
yeah,
Yeah.
who didn't get what they deserved based on what they brought to the table. You know, I think that that's a fair way to put it.
Yeah.
We are talking about Sabu today. Of course, the legendary Sabu passed away in May 11th of 2025, and we did a little bit of it in the news last week, but I thought it might be cool to kind of just do an overview of his career and just kind of look at what he did because really, like we talked about last week, like I think the closest analogy that I can come to is when Sabu was truly doing the groundbreaking things that he was doing and was like the indie wrestling uh go-to guy. It was like a cool band that you had heard about but you hadn't heard. You know, I think that's kind of the thing that I can equate it to at least, where it's like
A concept that no longer exists.
right, it's unfortunate that that's
Yeah.
you know, and that's cause sort of the same thing happened to Sabu, but like I remember hearing about Fugazi, and it's like Fugazi doesn't sell merch, and so all of their shows are $5, and they have the best rhythm section in rock, and they don't do interviews, and like you can't get to them except through these very narrow sort of pathways, and that can be annoying or come off as obnoxious or whatever. But like if you want that thing and you think that thing is cool, the fact that you have to search it out or that it's not readily available can also make it like a cool object.
I've heard about them. Are they any good?
They are very good, yeah. I
Hmm.
don't know if yeah.
I would be so annoyed if they were like frustrated with the business. You know, like
Right.
they're like, we don't sell merch and all of our shows are $5 and stuff. Why don't we have any money?
uh yeah, it's I mean like because the only access that I dorky kid in California who loved wrestling had to Sabu was the wrestling magazines at my grocery store, you know, and I could
that's
read
that's so sick.
I could like read results and I could see photos in the Bill After magazines and they'd hype the shit out of Sabu and it'd just be like he's the best thing you've ever seen if you get the chance to see him. And I was years before it was whenever he had the very brief run he had in WCW, probably the first time that I ever saw Sabu wrestle. And it was incredible because nobody's, you know, we'll get to it, but nobody's really doing the stuff that he was doing even then, you know. And so
And
he's
is the
just an,
brief? Go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, sorry, go ahead.
Is the brief run in WCW, is that pre or post ECW?
It's post his first run in ECW.
Okay, so a lot of the ECW stuff that you saw after the fact.
Yeah, because like I'm, you know, I'm not even. I'm probably 10 or 11, and the only way to
Oh
get
yeah,
those was to order tapes. And I don't have money to order wrestling tapes, and I certainly can't convince my mom to order underground wrestling
yeah.
tapes.
I heard
So
the
that
Dudley Boys could powerbomb a woman.
yeah, exactly, yeah. No, 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 you don't understand. The night the line was crossed, it's a three-way dance, mom. I, they brought wrestling back to the mainstream.
You
Like
want to shoot? We'll shoot, mom.
yeah. So there he like Sabu is an interesting he's a fascinating object because he exists in two different parallel worlds. Like if he had been born 20 years sooner, he would have been a much bigger star. And if he would have been born 20 years later, he'd be on AEW right now with Will Ospreay and those guys. And he's he's 1 foot in the old territories and he's 1 foot in whatever the new media was trying to be at that point. To
Well,
me.
I think that's what makes him so good because his wrestling style was that like that a lot. Like he takes the best of what we see with modern wrestling because well, I mean Sabu's all over modern wrestling.
Yeah.
But he takes the best of that with a lot of the believability of classic wrestling. Like
Yeah.
there's some hokey bullshit every once in a while because he loved putting on a show. It seems like, but there's for at least as a as a layperson observer who's done 85 wrestling podcasts,
Sure,
but
yeah. Not
episodes
to brag about it.
not to brag,
Ugh.
but the, to me it looks like he's not doing a bunch of like, okay, it's going to take 15 minutes to set this up, and everybody knows that the big spot's coming, but you're going to help me set up this big spot, and then we're going to do the big spot. And it still gets a good thing, but like we're going to talk about some matches today where just like Sabu just lands in a position and just gets chucked somewhere, and then or he just throws like. There's not a lot of whoa. There's a little bit of that, but it's like that's him putting a chair down. That's not him like whispering in the guy's ear. Okay, give me your leg. Give me your leg. I'm gonna.
Right.
And I think it's not as acrobatic. It is acrobatic, but it's not as acrobatic. Like he didn't go to gymnastics school. He's just a psychopath.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an important sort of through line that we'll talk about. So, Sabu, born Terry Brunk. How you like Terry Brunk?
Oh, yeah, that's we have Terry Funk at home.
Yeah. It's Timu Terry Funk. He born even this on Wikipedia, born either 1963 or 1964 in Staten Island, New York. Even that's a cool, like old timey thing where they're like,
people don't know.
Yeah, we don't know the exact age of this person.
And bro, you were born in Michigan. We weren't keeping track at the time,
right?
But it was revealed when he died that he was 61 years old and not 60 years old. So
yeah. Okay. So
likely 63.
Yeah. Yeah, he was billed as being from Bombay, India, Saudi Arabia, and quote unquote Bombay, Michigan, which always I got a little kick out of because they're like, he's from Michigan, but he's from India, Michigan.
Yeah, well, what people don't know is Bombay, Michigan was named after famous Pee Wee hockey coach Gordon Bombay.
I heard that he took on the Icelandic hockey team.
Yeah, he was the Minnesota Miracle Man, but Michigan really appreciated it.
Yeah, they just enjoyed it from afar. Yeah. He was, of course, trained by his uncle Ed Farhat, the original Sheik, not to be confused with the Iron Sheik.
I love that the original Sheik's name was Ed, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just a fucking guy named Ed. Was he from Michigan or was he from?
Yeah. Well, his parents were immigrants. He was born in Michigan.
And I'm gonna be honest, Sabu doesn't look particularly Indian. He looks like Lebanese or something.
I believe he is Lebanese.
Okay, I probably didn't do that out of the ether. I probably have seen that he's Lebanese,
right.
But he doesn't look Indian, is what you know what I mean?
Right, but he had a few different names. They're all kind of Sabu variations, but he was the Great Sabu. He was Sabu the Elephant Boy. He was Sabu of the Jungle. And then he wrestled as Terry Brunk, Terry Snuka, Terry SR, and Samu. In a few different places.
That's what you put on a few.
Yeah. But he was trained by his uncle, the Sheik, who's a famous Detroit wrestler. He was a promoter in Detroit. He had Big Time Wrestling, which ran for like tons of years. And the Sheik is known for being an insane wrestling personality in the 60s and 70s. Like he was a hardcore wrestler back then. He threw fireballs at people. Most of his matches ended in disqualification because he was the heel, and it was like every week we want to pay to see somebody finally beat the shit out of the Sheik, and he would get away.
God, I hate that Sheik.
I hate the goddamn Sheik. And I love it, dude. There's a really good book called Blood and Fire about the original Sheik that I've been listening to on audiobook. And so he trained Sabu and Rob Van Dam.
Oh, sick. Okay.
In Michigan. So Sabu debuts in 1985, and his career kind of, he's going through paying his dues, doing different things. And then his career kind of, the first big stop that he has is in 1991. He wrestles in Japan for FMW, which is Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling.
In Japan.
Okay. And it was started by another hardcore legend, Anita is the name of the guy who promoted
Anita
FMW.
More wrestlers. Huh?
Yeah, he need a less fire is what he need. But a lot of Sabu's signature look, the scars and on his arms and his chest, were from barbed wire matches and hardcore matches that he had while he was in FMW, including the first thing we took a look at, which is, like, I don't even really have a lot of notes for this. On YouTube, you can find a short clip where it's Sabu and Chris Candido, and they're talking
I was
about,
wondering if that was Candido. Yeah.
yeah, we're talking about a fire match that Sabu and the Sheik had against Onita and Tarzan Goto on May 6th, 1992.
AKA the worst idea that has ever been had by anybody. They forget that fire's hot when you're near it too. You don't have to
Yeah.
be on the fire. If you're
Well,
near the fire, it's still hot.
uh, it reminds me of that scene in Jurassic World. There's one really good joke in Jurassic World where they're explaining that they've created this new dinosaur. They've taken DNA from all these other animals to create the Indominus Rex.
Yeah.
And the guy, Chris Pratt's character goes, "What do you need to create new dinosaurs? The dinosaurs are cool enough." And it's like everybody's getting bored with the with the regular dinosaurs, so we got to give them the new hot shit is this Indominus Rex. And it's the same thing where it's like a no rope barbed wire death match isn't enough to scintillate a crowd of people. Like that's not enough danger.
Yeah.
And so they're
not
like,
only did they it's just so stupid. There's these giant, like, they're not towels, but they're essentially towels wrapped around the barbed wire, and they're soaked in kerosene because of course they are. They also soaked the mat. They got the mat wet.
Yeah, they got the mat had water on it,
presumably, so it wouldn't catch on fire.
Right. But what they don't know is that the fire is a straight shooter. Fire doesn't work. It's not a worker.
Water changes.
Yeah.
Water reacts to what you're doing to it. You're gonna make that water hot as shit, and I wrote in all caps, Matt was wet. They're getting steamed like hot dogs.
Yeah, they're like tamales in the ring.
That's a JR line for sure.
Oh yeah.
I also wrote that's too much fire.
Yeah, Andrew sent me a text message about 10:30 at night a couple nights ago that just said, "There's way too much fire."
It's just too much fire. They had to have known there was going to be too much fire.
I don't think this is a situation where they've tried it out. You know what I mean?
Well, Sabu was like, we were planning on having a long match, but it got too hot in there.
Yeah, I don't know that they had like a rehearsal beforehand. Hey, let's see what happens if we put everything on fire. The match is like 2 minutes long. They get in the ring and you could tell everybody's like, fuck this. I do not want to be in this ring.
No, he said it was melting the logo in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, and like 30 seconds in, as soon as they light the kerosene soaked rags, because of course, and then it turns into an inferno. Yeah. And everybody's like, fuck that, we're out. And so you could see Sabu dive out of the ring. And then they thought, like, they nearly killed the Sheik, because the Sheik is in his 60s, I think, and can't move. And so they've like abandoned him in the ring, and he has no way to get out. And luckily he gets out at the last second, and they kind of fight on the floor. And then everybody's like, you know what? We're fine.
Sabu was like, yeah, that shit burned for like hours.
Yeah, well, it's an inferno. How do you there? You could see a little bit in the video, like a bucket brigade starting to form to try to throw, as Hannibal Buress would say, water on the fire. Yeah. You got to put water on that fire.
We got to take that fire there. We got to go over there and put water on it.
And so this is not a match. I guess it could go without being said, but like I wanted to show this because one, it's insane, and two, it's sort of it just illustrates the lengths that Sabu was willing to go to and how crazy his career is before he even makes it in America. Like,
yeah, and Sabu goes at the end when he's talking to Candido. He goes, "We got a lot of press for that for no reason, because it was a fuck up, I guess." And it's like, maybe because you almost fucking killed yourself and burned the town down.
Didn't Candido go, well, 4 guys nearly died? That's probably newsworthy.
He said something like that.
Yeah. So our first match that we get to is Sabu debuts in ECW. And I just found like the highlights of this. There's a highlights video that was aired on ECW television where he takes on the Tasmaniac. This is October 1st, 1993. And this is when ECW is not yet Extreme Championship Wrestling. Um, and I like the reason that I wanted you to see this is this. First, they have Sabu on the gurney, strapped in with the Hannibal Lecter mask on, which I think is a cool presentation for Sabu, even though he hated the Hannibal Lecter mask.
They really did Taz dirty with that gimmick, by the way.
That was Taz's gimmick.
That's an awful gimmick.
Yeah.
Having a fucking frenzy.
I'm a
I'm a
Tasmaniac, you see.
I'm a fucking Brooklyn caveman.
You don't get it, fucking Fred Flintstone and I used to go round for round.
I'll hit you with my stone club. It was I forgot what I was gonna say, but this was yeah, I lost it. I'm sorry.
So I
Continue.
like this is an early illustration of like Paul E and Sabu were meant for each other. Heyman and Sabu were meant for each other. Heyman, in my mind, is the best guy to promote Sabu. The ideas that he had for promoting Sabu were the smartest way to promote him, which is like an old territory wrestler. This is where Sabu is a little bit too outside of his time because you announce, oh shit, the madman, goddamn Sabu is coming into the territory. You sell out a week of shows with Sabu versus all your guys, and then Sabu leaves for a while because part of his allure is that you don't see him all the time. It hurts Sabu if he's there week to week involved in the regular wrestling bullshit because he should be like a maniac that
somebody would have died by now if he was around all the time.
Right, somebody that exists outside of time almost. So like
Yeah.
the 3-minute video version of Sabu where he's hitting all of his spots and they all look insane. And again, 1993, the moonsault by Great Muta is a finishing move. Like people are like, "Oh, you're dead. If this dude backflips on you, that's it." And Sabu's jumping from from a chair to the top rope to hit a dude with a leg drop. He's doing like topes over the top rope onto the floor on people. Like it really looks insane and innovative, and you don't see any of the sloppiness because again it's in video form or like in short form. And I think that's really kind of one of the best ways to introduce Sabu, because if I was flipping through the channels and saw this, I would stop because it looks like, and on one hand kind of a freak show, but also it's engaging. It instantly catches your attention.
Yeah, and he was also like at one point they just cut to they cut to him just destroying the building. Like people are running out of their chairs and he's just grabbing their chairs and throwing them all over the place. And like I remember what I was gonna say. I've wanted to be wheeled in on a dolly so many times in my life. Like I briefly, and I was only I was mostly kidding, but I briefly wanted to, when I played high school baseball, I wanted them to wheel me to the plate.
like Mike Dirnt in the in the basket case video.
Yeah. So I was gonna sing at a Halloween party this year. And guess where they were gonna bring me in on? A fucking dolly from the back. Didn't work out. I still have the Bone Man mask, but
Bone Man. So and then
Slow Ride.
No, it's
Take it easy.
It could be. It's Spoon Man by Soundgarden.
Okay.
But so then on his second night in the promotion, he beats Shane Douglas to win the ECW heavyweight title. So again, it's kind of an old territory thing. We're like, this is this is our guy.
Yeah.
And we're going with this guy. And so Sabu wins the title. He defends it for a little bit, and then he eventually loses it to Terry Funk in December of 93. And then
I'm gonna take that title from you, you son of a bitch.
God damn you,
God
Sabu.
damn it. You almost fucking killed me, but god damn it. I outlasted you.
And then he ends up winning the television title and then loses it to the Tasmaniac in March of 94. And so he's kind of just in and around. At Worlds Collide, he wrestled Sabu and Bobby Eaton wrestled Terry Funk and Arn Anderson, which I feel like is a match that I'm going to have to search out.
I was going to say, that seems like a very interesting match.
Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Sabu seem like an interesting team to go ahead and
that's a mismatch.
Um, so and he's kind of just doing the circuit. I mean, there aren't many territories to go to, but Sabu is wrestling for ECW and he's wrestling around. And he ends up in our second match. It's Sabu versus Cactus Jack, because at the time these are the two most insane guys in the world. It was like a dream match on the indies back, early in that sort of thing where it's like,
what year would you say this match happened?
I believe that this happens. I have it. Let's see. 1994, October of 94.
Mick Foley is 29 years old, and he already looks like he has been hit by multiple trains. Like he
Yeah.
leans to one side, and like you could tell, like this is post ear being ripped off. Like it's just miles, man, miles and miles.
Yeah. This is for the at the Nevada, what are they called? The NWC was the promotion out of Las Vegas where this match happened. And this is a desert death match. And this was like somebody might die. We have the two craziest motherfuckers in wrestling against each other in a no holds barred match.
And it's just in a community center.
It's in a casino / boys and girls club.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
It's a casino, but it looks like just a community center, like cafeteria area that they're wrestling in.
Yeah. And there's some good stuff in here. Like, again,
this match was awesome.
Yeah, they're doing like a lot of innovative hardcore stuff. Sabu gets suplexed through a table that's on the floor, and these are like hard,
the real tables.
Yeah, these are not tables that had been pre-cut to fall apart.
These aren't that particle board bullshit that we got nowadays. 30 seconds in, Mick Foley took a fucking chair straight to his noggin.
Yeah, it's it's so funny to me to see these two guys, like, nobody knows that they're gonna see, like they recorded it obviously, but like they don't know that anybody's ever gonna see this, and there's I don't know how many people in this thing, and they're still like, maybe try to have the greatest match we've ever had. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Let's give him hell, and we'll go to Denny's. One thing, Mick Foley did something I've never seen before in wrestling, and I'm sure this has been done before, but I loved it so much. Sabu, I believe, was on the ground when this happened, but there's a table in the air, and Mick Foley suplexed a table onto Sabu.
Yeah, that's like, I think that's a Terry Funk spot.
That doesn't surprise me. That sounds very much like Terry Funk, but that was like I the first time you see something like,
right,
holy shit, why have I never thought of that?
And then I don't know the context for this, but Mick Foley, after he suplexes Sabu on the floor, grabs a microphone and starts yelling, "Who's washed up?" As in answer to no one. Mick Foley's greatest opponent, the straw man argument.
He's 29.
Yeah, I assume that it's like, oh, you're not the most hardcore anymore. Sabu's way more hardcore than you are. Yeah,
he's so much more hardcore than you.
You're old hat. I've never seen this in a match. Cactus Jack tries to grab a guy's cane that's in the front row, and this dude will not give his cane to Cactus Jack. He is uncooperative. He's not charmed by Cactus Jack's antics.
Listen,
apparently.
That's an old Nevada good old boy. You don't take it. His cane is his dignity, dog.
Yeah, that guy came from and then like they fight
he was at the circus. He was at Circus before this.
They fight into the casino. And then the camera work is kind of shoddy here, but whatever. It's the NWC, right?
It's because I think it was because the cameras were wired and they couldn't get him that far away. That was my guess.
Yeah. But Cactus Powler drives Sabu on a blackjack table, which is dope. But imagine like you've just hit 21 on like a 10-1, and they clear all the chips. So that Cactus Jack can do a power driver on top of that blackjack table.
God damn it! I hate that Cactus Jack.
He was being a real heel. Of course, Cactus does the Hangman's Noose spot where he runs at the ropes and then gets his head caught in it, even though he had recently lost half of his goddamn ear doing the exact same move.
Just always reminds me of Homer Simpson in the drawbridge.
And then I'm not sure. This is sort of Sabu in a nutshell. In a nutshell, like while Cactus is in the Hangman's noose,
Yep.
it's like, does Sabu hit his prone opponent in the head with a chair that he's holding in his hand, or
Yep.
does he set up the chair to jump off onto his opponent?
Yep.
It's like you in wrestling logic, you could brain this guy and kill him,
Yeah.
or you could set it up and jump off onto him, which I wasn't sure how you were going to feel because, as I know, physics is a big part of wrestling to you,
Yeah, it
and I
sucked.
don't know that jumping slightly off of the chair is going to make his move hurt anymore.
No, but you probably get higher than you would have otherwise, right?
Yeah,
It's like it's whatever. That one doesn't make me as mad as like
the
the what is
spike
it, the
pile
spike
driver.
pile driver. I just thought in my head, like when I realized what he was about to do, like Steppenwolf started playing in my head or something. Like this is gonna
Yep,
be badass. Like
he's.
heavy metal thunder.
I think that was Cactus's theme song whenever he was on the Indies too.
Hell yeah! Well, I nailed
Um,
it then.
Sabu hits a flying leg drop with a chair off the top rope to win this match because of course he does. In
I
about
wrote leg drop with a chair. Yikes!
yeah, in about 26 minutes. Now Mick Foley doesn't remember geometry
Yeah,
because
that's
of
what
it.
made him really love Christmas.
Yeah,
He's like, I can't do a Mick Foley. It's just gonna sound like Terry Funk. But
yeah, it's
I
a
actually
little
hated Christmas until that leg drop with a
yeah.
chair.
This match drew 550 fans. This was their first ever event at the Silver Nugget Casino. And then this match got 4 stars out of the Wrestling Observer newsletter.
I think
So,
that's fair. Like I wrote it down, and this is it's an oxymoron. Sensible death match. Like we're
right.
not there. There wasn't a moment in that death match where I was like, okay, fuck, there's children here because there were
Mhm.
children in the building. It's
Yeah.
very funny watching these little kids watch while Cactus Jack is walking out, going like, "I'm gonna fucking kill this motherfucker, Middle Eastern."
Yeah.
So like, it's a very sensible. Like, we don't need. I don't need barbed wire. I know some people do. I'm not too mad about it, but I don't need it.
Right.
There weren't any fluorescent lights. We don't need the thumbtacks. Nobody went through a cell. Like
Yeah.
it was just like there were a couple times where you're like, oh shit. That's what I need out of a death match. Maybe I'm a pussy.
There's there's like okay, the guy got a chair dropped on his head from a decent height. That's probably enough. That we
Yeah,
probably don't need more than that.
yeah.
Uh
Are we taking death literally?
yeah.
Because what's it gonna
That's
take to end this match?
and then they had a rematch in January of 1995 where they drew 1,500 fans in a bring your own weapons steel cage match.
Hell yeah.
Which also got 4 stars, but I thought this was funny. It reportedly alienated some of the audience who had come to see midget wrestling and a rare appearance by Junkyard Dog. Uh, so
Where was that match?
this was also at the casino, the Silver Nugget
That's the
Casino.
thing. That's the thing. I mean, that's the thing about the entertainment business, man. If you promise midgets and a junkyard dog, you better deliver midgets and junkyard
Yeah,
dog because like it's like doing stand up. When I would do stand up at a pizza place where people didn't come for stand up, oh boy, that pizza better be good, and you better not turn
yeah.
down the game. You know what I mean? So like,
That's
uh, that's wild.
Paul F. Tompkins has a good joke about that where it's like nobody wants to see stand up in front of a band.
Oh yeah.
Like, but you can see a band before you saw stand up. Like if a band opened for like a stand up that I wanted to see and played a few songs, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh
But if
yeah.
a stand up comedian opens for a band, you've got about 5 minutes before that crowd is like, where is the band?
Yeah.
And rough all over. But I just thought it was funny that this crowd was like, it's like pearls before swine. You know, they see a 4-star match between two guys who would become big stars, and they're like, I look. When I come to the Silver Nugget to see wrestling, I'm here for midgets. I'm here to see the Junkyard Dog. Don't give me a steel cage, bring your own weapons match.
Listen, okay, that was sick as shit. I get it. But Where are the midgets? There
Where?
better be midgets.
Where is the junkyard dog? So I want to do a deep dive on this promotion because I read their Wikipedia and it's hilarious. But I also like to.
I love a chaotic Wikipedia. You know that.
Yeah. So then next I found another. This is a highlight video of Sabu from ECW that Paul Heyman introduces. Of course, the most dangerous man in wrestling. Right?
Yeah.
He's suicidal, homicidal, genocidal.
Yeah.
Now I understand suicidal.
Yeah.
And I understand homicidal.
Mm-hmm.
Genocidal is a little tougher for me to understand. What is Sabu's mission? To kill everyone? Or
ethnic cleansing is what I've come to understand.
Yeah.
He wants to kill all the wrestlers.
Right, I guess, yeah.
It's a wrestler genocide, and you're being silent about it, Dusty.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It's wrestler genocide erasure, and that's my
silence
fault.
is violence. Okay.
Yeah. Like, and they use "Grind" by Alice in Chains, which I love an Alice in Chains song. This again is like maybe the best way to promote Sabu. It looks fucking sick. It's like 4 minutes of the best stuff Sabu does. Everything that he does looks like it hurts himself or the other guy or both.
Is this the one where it's called Human Highlight Reel?
Yeah.
Video?
Yeah.
There's one of my favorite things in wrestling, and I don't know if it's just Mick Foley that does this because we've seen somebody do it, and I can't remember if it was Mick Foley that did it. Guys leaning out of the ring, guy outside of the ring with a. It wasn't outside of the ring when we saw it, but this one, Sabu's leaning out of the ring with his head outside of the ring. He's like leaning on the second rope. Foley has a chair.
Yeah.
And he swings, he hauls back to hit him with the chair. Sabu moves. Foley hits the second rope. Chair bounces off the second rope and hits him in the forehead.
Yeah.
He played himself. And then immediately, so that happens, boing, 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 and then Sabu jumps onto the ropes, moonsaults towards Foley, kind of hits Foley, but hits his midsection just right on top of a guardrail.
Oh, yeah. That's the old Larry Curly and Mo. That's what we call that spot.
The double whoopsie.
The Rock does a good missed the guy with the chair bounces off the rope.
I think it's the Rock that we saw do it. It's one of my favorites. It's just an evergreen spot. I want one of those a show.
There's also a spot here where I don't know who the guy is, but Sabu kills some poor guy with a Michinoku driver. Just drops this dude straight on his head.
Oh yeah.
And then they cut away, and I'm like, did I just witness the homicidal part of Sabu's gimmick? Because I don't know if that guy's okay.
Well, it's a little bit of the genocidal part.
Yeah, right.
He also does a suicide dive power bomb in this.
Oh yeah.
He jumps over the top and lands on the other side of the guy on his ass and power bombs the guy to the ground.
Yeah. I mean, like, again,
hell yeah, dude.
These are like, this is stuff that almost no one is doing, as like to a wild degree. Like, again, not to put too fine a point on it, moonsault, maybe the biggest high spot you'll see in a match on WWF television as far as like top rope antics go. And Sabu's out here straight up murdering dudes with power bombs over the top rope. Okay, so Sabu in February of '95, Sabu and the Tasmaniac beat the Public Enemy, who are Andrew.
Oh fuck. I believe the Public Enemy.
My sworn testimony is
there's the Public Enemy and the Nasty Boys, and the Nasty Boys are Jerry Sags, and Brian Knobbs. So I'm working with the Public Enemy, who is Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah, dude. I got it. It's like fiction and nonfiction. Pete Holmes has that joke where he's like,
right.
He's like, fiction means not true, so nonfiction means not non-true. Like that's how I have to find my way to the Public Enemy.
Rocky 2 plus Rocky 5 equals Rocky 7. Adrian's Revenge. Yeah. So they beat the Public Enemy in a double tables match at the appropriately named Double Tables event.
Hell yeah, dude.
So
Listen, we're right on the nose.
yeah, then they lose those belts to Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko 3 weeks later at Return of the Funker. Pretty cool name.
I like that one too.
And then they're scheduled in April to take part in a 3-way dance for the tag titles, which I believe is Benoit, Malenko, the Republic Enemy, Sabu the Tasmaniac. New Japan had contacted Taz to book him for the same day as the CCW show. And Taz is like, hey, I have an ECW commitment. I can't do it. Sabu, who's also wrestling for New Japan, goes, yeah, I'll do it. And I believe that he was using the Hulk Hogan method of time, where because he's going to be,
I get all that time back, brother.
He's going to be in Japan, not the same time.
The
Hulk
probably told him,
yeah.
Sabu, brother, you're going to be fine.
Brother, it's fine. And so Heyman is telling Sabu, like, I booked this match, so if you're not going to be there, tell me you're not going to be there and we'll figure it out. And Sabu told him, no, I'll be there, and then double-crossed him. So Paul Heyman comes out in the ring with Taz as the event starts and publicly fires Sabu in the ring and tells the fans, like, Sabu decided to take New Japan's money instead of being here performing for you guys. And so then for months, there's a fuck Sabu chant. He becomes the biggest heel in ECW while not wrestling for ECW.
Hell yeah.
So he's wrestling in New Japan, and that is when he makes a brief sojourn into WCW in 1995. And I don't want to say that Bischoff is stealing from Heyman, but there's a little 30-second clip I found, of them promoting Sabu kind of in the same way, where it's just showing these cool highlights that Sabu can do. And it's only 30 seconds. And it's like, you got to stick around to see this dude.
Yeah,
they don't have enough material to do the 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's, I think anybody who knows, like with Sabu, it's like, you just show the banger. He's got a lot of bangers, and so listen, I will take a lot of opportunities to shit on Eric Bischoff,
right?
But I wouldn't get too mad at him for this
one. He beat Alex Wright in his debut on WCW Nitro, and then the decision was reversed because Sabu can't help himself. He put Alex Wright through that table. Of course he did. Yeah.
Did Alex Wright keep dancing after he went through
the table? No, he had to sell the table. And then Sabu wrestled Jerry Lynn at Halloween Havoc, but Sabu's uncle, the Sheik, was there, and he threw what I would categorize as an unauthorized fireball right in Mr. JL's goddamn face.
Unauthorized. He didn't give it permitted.
I do not believe that he told them that he was going to throw fire. He probably told Mr. JL, but they probably didn't clear it because that's kind of just the guy the Sheik is. So
Jerry Lawler, God damn it.
Yeah. And then his last match in WCW we watched just for the yucks. Because Andrew loves the Disco Inferno, and it's a weird thing to see Sabu wrestling the Disco Inferno.
And losing to the Disco Inferno, Dusty.
Yes, that's very true.
Because, listen, Sabu might have gotten the pin in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Disco's hair looked great.
Yep.
It continued to look great. He got suicide dived.
Yep.
Dove. He gets put on a table. Glenn Gilberetti doesn't go through that table.
No. You're not putting the Disco Inferno through a table.
No. So he gets out of the way. Sabu goes through the table.
Doo-doo on his face.
And yeah, Disco dances his happy ass all the way up there. He left Sabu in a pile of his own shit,
Yeah, that's a sort of that's the thing where he played himself,
That's the only note that I wrote down for that match was W Disco.
That's that Nate Diaz. If you knock me out, that's not the same.
Even when I lose, I win.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. Who would you rather be at the end of that?
Yeah. And of course, Sabu is like, well, I'm definitely going to break this table because that's like a thing that I do
Yeah.
no matter what.
That's the wildest thing about Sabu is like if he didn't feel like there was enough destruction, it's like Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
He sets up the table, fucks
Yeah.
it up.
So Sabu says that Kevin Sullivan's the guy that brought him into WCW, and he's like, "Hey, we want to do a tryout with you. We want you to be on the first Nitro." And I don't think that was the first Nitro, but it's within the first month of Nitro coming out. And he goes, "We want to bring you out. How much do you want?" And Sabu's like, "I'd do it for free." And they're like, "Well, we have to pay you something." And he goes, "Okay, $500." And so then they try to get Sabu to sign a contract where he does one match on Nitro and one pay-per-view match for $500 a month or $500 a match. And Sabu's like, that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Why would why would I do that? The $500 was the rate for me to come out there for you to see me, and then if you want to sign me to a contract, we talk about the contract money second, you
Yeah.
know. And then Bischoff wanted to put him in the cruiserweight division or the junior heavyweight division, and Sabu was like, I don't want to be a cruiserweight. Cruiserweight is a like it's a branding term, and you don't ever not be a cruiserweight. And this
Yeah.
is even before the cruiserweight division has even really started.
Yeah, you
But the
kind of get
junior,
typecast.
yeah, it's similar to the junior heavyweight division in Japan, and that's a very tough stigma to crack. Also, like he does have a point, and he's like, I want to make big money. I want to make main event money. If I'm a cruiserweight, I'm gonna be first match guy, and I don't want to be first match
Well,
guy.
and
Like,
it handcuffs the bookers because you can't book a guy as a cruiser. You can probably figure it out, but it's hard. Book a guy as a cruiserweight and then eventually have him beat your champion because then it confuses everything. It's like, well, then now cruiserweights are beating us. There's not the hierarchy that used to be.
right. Well, and it's sort of a caste system. Like if you're a cruiserweight, there's no way for you to get above
Yeah,
the
it's a
the
ceiling.
place the place where you're at, which is why
You're too short.
Benoit and Guerrero and Jericho and Saturn and all those guys left, and Malenko, like they were all cruiserweights or lower level guys. And so Sabu was like, no, I'll come in, but like if you're telling me there's no chance, no matter how over I get, that I ever move up and wrestle the big main event guys for money, I don't want to do it. And it's
Yeah,
like that's but that's again sort of a territory mentality where it's like he doesn't want to go in, get exposure, but then he might lose quite a bit, or even if he wins, he's not moving up, and you stagnate out, and then now everybody's seen your shit, and so where do you go from there?
yeah.
So in November of '95, Sabu returns to ECW as a surprise. Uh, Heyman brings him back in, and so he comes in and he's doing a bunch of different matches. He wrestles for the TV title.
Did he
Uh,
get a big pop when he came back?
oh yeah, he was like, you want to go back to the old ways? You want to go back to the original ECW? Sabu, and then Sabu fucking comes out. Everybody's all is forgiven because now Sabu's there. He's their guy again.
Yeah,
you know.
of
Um,
course.
and he starts feuding with Rob Van Dam. And so after their match where Sabu beats him at Hostile City Showdown, Van Dam refused to shake his hand, which led to a respect match, again, at the aptly named A Matter of Respect.
What's a
And a
respect match?
respect match is if you lose, you got to shake the other guy's hand. you
So
must
that
shake
I mean,
you
as
must shake hands.
yeah, but if you win, you also have to shake the guy's hand.
Right, but that guy has to shake your hand. you don't, both guys are shaking hands, but
I feel
that
like
guy,
there's a two-way street here.
it takes two to tango, is what you're saying.
Respect match is stupid.
Yeah. Sabu,
You got to say something nice into the mic about him. That would be better.
yeah.
You got
Sabu,
impeccable style.
I think that you're very cool, and I think you have more confidence than you think you do.
Yeah, you always pick up your food in the locker room.
You like cool bands.
Yeah.
Uh, so Sabu lost that match, and he was forced to shake hands with Van Dam, but who refused by saying, "Not only do I not respect you, you're a piece of shit." so,
Oh, dude.
yeah. And then that led to the match we watched here at the Doctor is In, because Dr. Death Steve Williams is at this show. This is a
Oh yeah.
stretcher match between Van Dam and Sabu, who, of course, have a long history of and rivalry going after this, and again they train together, and Sabu helped train Van Dam, and so that's his guy, and these guys have incredible chemistry. I feel like watching this
Yeah,
match.
they have. It's cool. They have similar styles, but not the same style. Like like if you told like you telling me that they train together, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can see that a little bit, but it's not like Sabu's throwing like way different. I mean, RVD obviously is throwing way different stuff than Sabu. Um,
Yeah, and they don't step over each other's stuff.
no,
Like Van Dam's a different kind of athlete than Sabu is. Like they do different stuff well, but the stuff they do meshes together
yeah, and
in
I
a
really
in a cool way.
appreciate that they were willing to like just collide with each other sometimes. Like
Yeah.
that's one thing that and some of them were probably botches. I mean, some of them were definitely botches. They got a "you fucked up" chant during this. Oh boy, does that ECW crowd have a boner for chants, don't they, bro?
They
Oh, they
love it,
couldn't
dude.
stop doing it.
No.
Oh, we're part of it. Anyway, I think the chants are cool. I think it was this match that they really overdid the chants.
Yeah.
But they there's probably one asshole that just wanted. Oh, I always start the chants. It's my thing. But there's there's a spot during this match where Van Dam is on the turnbuckle. Sabu has his chair set up.
Yeah.
And they just kind of like jump at each other and they just collide midair and fall wherever they fall. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't.
like birds fighting. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's yeah. Yeah, I think Sabu has also said like cuz he gets knocked for like botches and things, and I think some of them are genuine botches, and I think some of them he says, well, if everything goes perfect, it's basically it's a dance or gymnastics or something. He's like, I would fuck up on purpose because then it makes it more real. And he's like, and then the fans would chant shit at me, but they don't know because they're a bunch of marks. He's like, I could do it if I wanted to. I choose not to run.
I'm totally like I love that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if he did it on purpose. I don't I have no reason to
Some of
not
them I
believe him or
think are on
whatever.
purpose. There's one a little bit later I'll point out that he clearly did on purpose for the purpose of the match. But like some of them are genuine, but yeah, it's not supposed to look smooth. It's
Yeah, when
it's, it's
it's
supposed to be a
chaos.
fight.
Is
Yeah,
this an evil man? Like I don't know why
right.
everything has to be so crisp. He's throwing his body at another guy, using it like a wrecking ball. He should fall to the ground and crumbling in his own shit.
Yeah, there's
That's
a
why I love it.
there's a spot in this match where Sabu hits a flipping Arabian facebuster, and some guy in the crowd yelled out "Jesus," which really made me laugh. Yeah, I thought this was really good. There is another classic Sabu spot where he has Van Dam on the stretcher, and then he wants to, because the point of this match is you have to knock the other guy out, put him on a stretcher, and they have to wheel the stretcher a designated amount away from the ring. Who knows how far away from the ring, but a certain amount away from the ring for it to count. Otherwise, match continues.
Yeah.
So the Van Dam's on the stretcher, and Sabu's like, I don't think he's hurt enough. So Sabu gets up on the ropes and goes to do an acai moonsault onto the stretcher, which is already not a great plan.
Yeah.
And then he just slams the shit out of his shin on the guardrail as he goes over. And I was like, did Sabu just break his leg?
Yeah,
It
you could tell he's in some real pain too. He's
yeah,
like
he's like,
holding. He's like, God damn it!
oh, Terry, you did it again.
Oh, I took a shinner. I took a shinner.
Terry Brunk, why
You
do you do this?
oh, you brunked up again. They that I wrote when he did that. Nobody loved flipping onto things more than Sabu because
Yeah.
like he's just addicted to moonsaults and
Yeah.
he go ahead.
Everything in this match is a slingshot something. Every
Yeah.
every move. And I thought that this might be where it annoys you because like the slingshot doesn't necessarily, I mean maybe it adds more force. I'm not a scientist, but it's, to a certain degree it's just cuz it looks really cool. Like the triple jump moonsault where he jumps on the chair, jumps on the top rope, then backflips into a moonsault, looks
Yeah.
fucking sick. And he's the only guy that I've ever seen really pull that off. But that doesn't add any impact to the moonsault.
Listen, we're gonna have a I think it's when he's wrestling Taz. He does a 180 before slamming through Taz through a table.
Yeah.
Like he just turns for no
So,
reason.
yeah.
But it looks fucking cool. Like I'm very subjective with what like
Yeah.
I'm not on a hard stance. But Spike Piledriver is very stupid. But who is this Sam Kinison ass Wolfman jackass play-by-play announcer? Who is
That's
this
right.
guy?
Hey, you watch yourself. That's the
I understand. I'm gonna piss a lot of people off by saying who.
That's the ravishing one.
That's Rick Rude.
I believe.
No way, that's Rick Rude.
Not in this match. In the match with Taz, that's Rick Rude. Dude.
No, I'm talking about the guy that goes like, and Sabu jumps up and Sabu.
Oh, that's
that guy.
That's Joey Styles.
Oh man, Joey Styles. What the fuck, man?
Stop
doing that.
That's the most famous. He's like the ECW.
I was wondering if it was him. Guy. I forgot his name. But I was wondering if I could picture him in my head. But
oh my god, that guy.
Yeah. Oh my god, he's Shut up.
So they're like,
why don't you go where the food is? Ow!
Maybe it's because you're a bitch. Yeah. So, like you said, there's some colorful chants here. We got a Van fucking damn chant and a Sa fucking boo chant.
Yeah. They just like every time a chant stopped, you could tell there was some guy in the crowd that was like, "What's the next one? Sa fucking boo."
Where are we starting? Start in the back. Bring it to the front.
He's trying to start the wave and shit.
Yeah. Into this match, of course, Sabu's on the stretcher, and Van Dam's like, he's probably not hurt enough. And so Van Dam gets to the top rope and tries to do a front flip onto the stretcher, which again, terrible idea.
What are we doing? Yeah.
And he misses, which looks like a bummer. And then he falls on the back of his head on the floor and quote unquote knocks himself out. I don't know that he's actually knocked out. Doesn't look like a fun bump to take either way.
Well, I'm glad that you showed the Disco Inferno match before this because it showed that Sabu learned that maneuver getting out of the way from Disco Inferno.
If he takes one thing from WCW.
Yeah.
Oh, I move. If I move out of the way.
Shit, I fucking move.
It hurts.
This hurts.
It hurts the other guy way more.
We did skip over the Fisherman's Buster through the table.
Oh, yeah. Pretty sick.
So sick. And that was like what I was talking about when it comes to like, there's not a lot of setup. Like Sabu just goes and and RVD catches him in the position and just flips him over.
Yeah. When it's like, it looks like he's like, oh man, this worked out exactly like I wanted it to.
Holy shit, Fisherman's Buster.
Yeah. I think I know a Fisherman Buster out of this. Pretty sick, I thought. I thought this match was really pretty good.
Yeah, cool. Two guys I love watching, you know.
Afterwards, Van Dam and Sabu do show respect to each other. And then they both get attacked by a tag team called the Can-Am Express. And that's what leads to them becoming a tag team.
Okay.
And so that sort of puts them together. And so up next we have ECW Invades Raw. So we kind of covered this in our old 1997 podcast, but this is where WWF brought in ECW for a couple weeks to help them promote their first pay-per-view, Barely Legal. And Jerry Lawler is shitting on ECW at the time. But they have Mikey Whipwreck versus Taz in the ring. And something that made me laugh really hard was like, so Mikey Whipwreck and Taz are trying to, and Heyman are trying to essentially be like, this is real wrestling. We're hardcore guys. We're like, our shit is gnarly. And then they cut to the Nation of Domination during this match, and Farouk is wearing like his little Nation of Domination hat. Yeah. and he like cuts a promo on the Undertaker while the two guys from ECW are wrestling in the ring. And it's like, man, what a neck snap of tone between what ECW wants to promote themselves as and what WWE was doing at that particular moment, you know?
Yeah. WWE is selling merch.
Yeah.
And doing funny costumes. And ECW is like, somebody might die today. And it'd actually be sick. It'd probably be sick. I hope it's not that guy.
We would put it on television if they did. And so
I would
then
put it on television, and then I would tell the FCC that I didn't mean to put it on television.
yeah. I'd tell them to come get me. I'm already playing Inner Sandman, the original master recording, every week
Yeah.
on my television. So
when you don't have any money, you can't be sued.
yeah. So out of nowhere, Sabu comes out and Heyman starts losing his shit. He's got to get his. That's the most homicidal, genocidal, suicidal athlete. He's the craziest man in wrestling. And Sabu goes to jump off of the R of the Raw set, but he slips, and nobody catches Sabu. And it looked like it's just a big oof. But it's funny, you know. Like he fell off the R. He was like, they're freestanding, so he's like, when I went to jump there, I didn't have any place to like base myself essentially, and it moved when I moved, and so I fell, and then nobody was under me to catch me.
I love nothing more than a whoopsie. Like a very public whoopsie is something that I love very much. And once again, if you take risks like Sabu took, you're gonna have some whoopsies every once in a while.
They're not all hits, you know.
Yeah.
So then, as they're dragging Sabu away, this made me laugh. I never noticed this before. Vince McMahon goes, "Who was that guy?" And Heyman goes, "That's Sabu. You need to start watching the tapes that Bruce Pritchard leaves on your desk." And Vince just goes, "Ha!" Because it's famously come out.
I don't like him.
That Vince didn't watch anything. Vince never, like, people would send tapes. Bruce Pritchard and Jim Ross watched those tapes. There's a scene in Beyond the Mat where they're doing a tryout match, and Vince is at the gorilla position watching it, and he goes, "Hey, get me a tape of that." And somebody goes, "Yeah, sure thing." Vince never watched that tape. Like, that's why when a new guy came in, like Mick Foley came in, Mick Foley's pay-per-view main evented his main competitions events, and is an indie legend even at that point. Vince has no idea who Mick Foley is. Never watched a match, never saw a promo, never saw nothing, because Vince cares about the WWF, and that's it, you know. And so
we're finding out he cared about something.
He cared about other stuff too, yeah. But at this particular time, that was less known
in terms of pertinent things.
Yeah. So that was just a inside dig. I never heard that before, and then it made me laugh. So
that is good. That's good.
At Barely Legal, Sabu faced Taz in the grudge match of the century. So Taz had been calling Sabu out for a year. Once Sabu returned to ECW, Sabu won't fight me. Sabu's scared of me. Sabu will never wrestle Taz. Blah 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 blah. And there's a really good YouTube video I found that put out by WWE that does the entire chronology of the Sabu Taz feud into Barely Legal. And so they promote this match for over a year. And finally, it's Sabu and Taz at Barely Legal. We didn't watch that one because, one, Sabu loses, and two, we had watched that previously on the old podcast, so I didn't want to put out old shit that we'd already seen.
Listen, we're gonna have to rewatch some stuff. We covered some of the biggest things in wrestling before. I'm gonna have to watch Stone Cold versus Bret Hart again. You know what I mean?
But they decide. Oh, the end of that match though. Bill Alfonso has been with Taz since Taz returned and had been undefeated. And at the end of the Sabu Taz match, Van Dam comes out and him and Sabu jump Taz, and it's revealed that Bill Alfonso is now with Sabu because Sabu needs somebody to cut promos for him because Sabu doesn't talk.
That son of a bitch.
But I don't understand Bill Alfonso's motivation because Sabu just lost to Taz, and Taz has beaten everybody for like over a year. So it's very confusing to switch sides to the guy that lost versus staying with the guy that won. So I don't know. I couldn't find an exact motivation for this within the story.
Price went up. Maybe like, hey, as soon as I lost, I got to pay him another $50. Or Sabu was just like, hey, Bill Alfonso, I'll fucking kill you. I will kill you.
And you know I'll do it.
Don't forget the homicidal part of this homicidal genocidal thing.
And you're in wrestling. You cross off 2 of the list.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
that's homicidal and genocide.
Then in June, so Barely Legal's in April. In June of '97, at WrestlePalooza, which is a event name that I really enjoy.
Yeah, sure.
Sabu and Taz have an impromptu match, which this event was not on pay per view. It was just at the ECW arena, but they were recording it. So this match was supposed to take place at their next pay per view, and I think they hot shotted it just so that they could have a cool thing to put on the CCW arena match.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is the match that has Rick Rude as the commentator with Joey Styles.
I couldn't hear him.
You have Joey Styles tinnitus.
Bill Alfonso's
Oh,
fucking whistle
hey,
the entire
Yeah.
match, bro. And the thing that sucks is like I was thinking like what would I do if I was in the front row right there and he would not stop with the whistle?
Yeah.
Because if you say stop with the whistle, he's not going to stop with the whistle.
No, he's a heel.
He's going to think the whistle's working.
Yeah, I will say like as a like and what became the problem was Van Dam was also managed by Bill Alfonso, and Rob Van Dam's having these really great matches on pay-per-view later in ECW's life, and the entire time they're peppered by the whistle, and it's like really grating on the whole experience.
It's awful. Like
Yeah.
it just like triggers my autism like to an extent that I just can't like I realized like there were moments of the match where I'm like I haven't watched the last like 40 seconds of this match because I'm just watching stupid ass Bill Alfonso, who I told you I like him as a character. Like he's like the rat fucking manager, like ugly skinny manager hillbilly guy. I love that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I guess his character wasn't a hillbilly, but he looks like a hillbilly guy, right?
Well, and his whole thing was he was a crooked referee before, but he always claimed to call it right down the middle. So it was like, but it's always to his guy's advantage.
I love it.
Yeah.
The whistle is too much. The whistle ruins
Yeah.
the show.
I have to say that I think this is probably the second greatest feud in ECW history, aside from Tommy Dreamer versus Raven, because they built it so well. Heyman was a genius at how he built this match and how he kept those guys apart and how he built up Taz to be this unstoppable guy.
That's a sick way to you have your boogeyman and you have this guy just calling out your boogeyman the whole time and just running through dudes because Taz was a bad dude. You know, that's really
well.
Cool.
And we had a small clip I forgot. I don't know if the context was there for you, but he's called out Sabu for this whole year, and then at November to Remember '96. He finally gets his hands on Paulie, and he's choking out Paulie, and the lights go out, and everybody is like, "Oh shit, is it finally gonna?" And then the lights come on, and Sabu's in the ring, and the place fucking explodes. The ECW arena is insane, and they're staring off, and like you can feel it. It's palpable. This energy, like they built this match so much, and it's like, here's the craziest guy we got. And here's the toughest motherfucker in the room, and somebody's going to have to relent here. And then right as they're about to go at each other, the lights go out again. And then they come back and both guys are gone because Heyman's a genius, you know, but as far as the build for all of these things, best ever. In the ring, I'm not enthralled with the Taz Sabu matches necessarily. Like, I don't know if Sabu gets hurt early in these matches, if he's thrown for a loop, or if their styles just don't mesh for me, but I was never, or if the moment's too big. Like, somebody might have to actually die for the match. Yeah, for the match to live up to its hype. But I remember being underwhelmed by the Barely Legal match, and I was kind of underwhelmed by this one too. It's still like, it's still fine, but it's just, I don't know that these guys ever had a chemistry that was great.
Do you know what star rating it got?
I do not know for WrestlePalooza.
What was it? WrestlePalooza?
Yeah. But this was the match where I was saying Sabu goes up on the top rope at one point to do something, and then he falls and crotches himself on the top rope, and they start chanting "You fucked up" at him. But I think that's part of the match, because then Taz takes that opportunity to grab him and then hit him with a suplex. And so I think they built that spot in as a way to get to the next thing. Like,
yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, crotching very often is on purpose. the one thing that I liked, this is a small thing. So at Living Dangerously, they had a 3.5.
Okay.
WrestlePalooza, what was this? WrestlePalooza 97?
Yeah.
It's not listed on here. What the hell? Um, there's only WrestlePalooza 98, and he was wrestling against Rob Van Dam, and they got
Yeah.
one
This
and a
was the only
quarter
pay
star.
per view, or this wasn't a pay per view, so I don't know if
Oh yeah,
Meltzer
it's probably not
watched
even
it.
on there.
So yeah.
The but one thing that Taz did, and this is a very small thing, but I think it's cool. He completely no sold to Frankensteiner. Like Sabu goes up, flips
Oh
his
yeah.
legs up, and Taz is sitting on the turnbuckle, and Sabu throws his legs up, and Taz just kind of moves his head, and the legs come off, and Sabu falls.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a sick thing because like that would happen pretty often.
Yeah.
Like it's like a believable way to counter something like that is just wrench your head in a way where his legs slip off of it. Like in real fights, there's like, oh man, they're too slippery for the submission, that type of shit. So like,
Yeah.
I really appreciate little stuff like that. Could have been an accident. I don't know, but I feel like it wasn't because like Taz probably would have fallen anyway.
Yeah. That well, and it's interesting because like Taz is a guy who was supposed to kind of be like a shoot fighter. That's kind of his
Yeah,
gimmick, or a UFC guy. And so it's like he would probably watch tape, and he used to team with Sabu, so he knows Sabu's moves and has his stuff scouted. So it would make sense that he would know how to counter some of Sabu's stuff.
yeah,
You know. So this is also the match with the reverse splash, which is cool.
yeah.
it's
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 cool.
a
There's no
it's a
reason to
little
do it, but it looks sick.
yeah, it's a little silly, but it looks cooler than a regular splash.
Yeah.
And then after the splash through the table, Taz pops up, hooks the Taz mission, but Sabu rolls back onto Taz and then pins him with his like over the top of him. And that was pretty shocking at the time because Taz hadn't lost since November to Remember 96 or 95 actually. So he'd been undefeated for almost like a year and a half.
Oh, that's super cool. And
And
it was like a believable way to end it. Like it was the crowd was hyped for this. Like
yeah, well, and it's like, okay, so Sabu got beat last month with the Taz mission. He's probably been working on counters. Here's a perfect situation where he can pin him believably, and it's like Taz got caught, in the he it wasn't, and so Sabu gets his win back. Taz doesn't get he gets beat, but he doesn't get beat, and then you can move on. So a lot of interesting stuff happens after this. The lights go out when this match is over, and Jerry Lawler's in the ring,
yeah.
and Lawler starts talking shit about ECW. He's like, "So this is the ECW arena, huh? Just some bingo hall in Philadelphia filled with a bunch of idiots." He's like, they should, they should build it out of toilet paper because there's nothing in here but shit." And all these guys start coming out to the ring to try to fight Sabu, and then Van Dam gets in the ring. So it's Van Dam, Sabu, and Jerry Lawler fighting off like the entire ECW locker room, uh, and beating everybody up. And then finally, uh, Taz like they run off because Taz gets back up and he's back in. And then Taz gets on the mic and challenges Shane Douglas, the TV champion, to a match. And after like some back and forth, he's like, "If I can't beat you in 3 minutes, I'll leave ECW for a year." And so Shane Douglas finally does it. Taz immediately taps him out with the Taz mission. So at the end of this, you have a guy that's beat your unstoppable monster, but you redeem the unstoppable monster because now he's the TV champion. Like all in
Yeah.
the and now Sabu is even more hated because he's with the WWF guys, but he's off doing a different thing for a while. So you can split Taz off believably, and you have a reason why they're not going to just continue to fight each other.
It's that's all great. It's always weird. It's hard to put a guy who a maniac who doesn't talk in a faction. Like
Right.
nobody's gonna care about a faction, But that's so. I'm looking at star ratings for Sabu.
Okay.
I see November to Remember 97. Do you remember who he wrestled that day?
That was the Sandman, I believe.
In a tables and ladder match, right?
Yes.
Um, it looks like that got negative 3.5 stars.
That is one of the worst matches of all time.
Did we
Like,
watch this?
No, we didn't watch it. Everybody was awful. Like, Sabu says that Sandman took 2 hits of acid before the match
Hell
and
yeah,
thought
dude.
they and thought that he was fighting a giant lizard. And so,
It's always reptile with acid.
yeah, but it was like nothing would work right. Like they couldn't cooperate. They couldn't get any of the spots to work. It was ugly. The Sandman and Sabu had better matches later on, but that's like a notoriously awful match
The
they
other
had.
thing I'm seeing is 0 5-star matches. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, the five-star matches have gone out of control in recent years, but
Yeah.
Dave was real stingy with them back in the day.
Yeah, he had a
Uh,
4.5-star match with uh, Benoit Malenko versus Sabu and Tasmaniac.
yeah, that's where they
At
dropped the belts to Benoit and Malenko.
Return of the Funker 95.
Hell yeah.
And then there was a 4.5-star match against Too Cold Scorpio at ECW CyberSlam 96 for the television title.
Yep.
And then they had another one that was right after that, the Big Ass Extreme Bash Night 1. Sabu and Too Cold Scorpio, 1.5 stars. Fuck.
Well, and see, that's the thing. Like, there's a wild variance
There's quite a bit of variance.
In Seb, but like that's also kind of the fun of it. Is that he's like he's always
He's a
incredible.
madman.
Right, he's incredible, but it depends on the opponent. It sometimes depends on the night. Like Rob Van Dam and Sabu had an incredible match against a tag team called the Eliminators. Like one of their best matches. And then they also had a match against the Eliminators where the crowd was actively booing the match. Like it just, so it just depends. Um so the next match
Well,
we watched, the most infamous match in ECW history, probably, or at least their claim to be most uh infamous. Like there had been barbed wire matches in the US. It wasn't entirely a new concept, but there weren't a lot because you have to have 2 guys that are willing to do it. But in August 9th of 1997 at Born to be Wired,
hell yeah.
Sabu faced Terry Funk for the world title. Terry Funk's the champion in a no ropes barbed wire match.
What year did you say it was?
1997.
Okay, so Terry Funk was 53 years old.
Yeah. Uh,
Fuck.
this is the
How did
only.
he make it to 79 years old?
This is the only no rope barbed wire match, or the only barbed wire match in the history of ECW. They would have other times where they do spots with barbed wire, but it's the only official barbed wire match they ever had.
Okay.
The YouTube clip I found of this is almost like it's nearly unwatchable
Yeah, you can't see
because
shit.
it's a video, it's a copy of a copy of a copy, but there's nowhere else to watch this. It's not on the WWE network. You'd have to have a DVD, which I do have, but I have no way to give that DVD to Andrew so he can watch
Did
it.
you watch it on the DVD?
I've seen it because
Oh, so you yeah.
and it was one of those things. It's again like Sabu. It's like a bootleg of a cool concert where it's like for years Heyman's like, I'm not putting it out because I don't want people to try to up the ante of what we did, because what we did was stupid, and Sabu nearly cripples himself. And then I think by the time they were putting out home videos, it was like, well, this is a like Faces of Death kind of appeal to something. So there was a VHS set that ECW was putting out at the time. Like they'd put out quarterly tapes of their best matches, and it was like, oh, the no rope barbed wire matches on this. So I've had it in 2 different formats in my lifetime, but like it gets gnarly. Like I don't like, it's not a good match because there's not a good way to have a match where the ropes are made of barbed wire. Like it's just
I would if you told me you knew of a good no rope barbed wire match, I wouldn't believe you, but I'd watch it.
yeah, it's not conducive to having a great match because you have to the best way to do it is to tease all the barbed wire spots, but eventually somebody's got to go into the barbed wire.
Yeah.
Like, it's Chekhov's barbed wire, so you have to do it. So the big famous spot in this match is Sabu has Terry Funk in the corner, and he sets up a chair, and he goes to do the air Sabu, where he launches off the chair into the corner with like a leg attack. Jeff Hardy does the same move.
A leg attack.
Yeah, I don't know. He uses his leg to attack.
Yeah.
Terry Funk moves. Sabu crashes into the barbed wire and splits his bicep open, like to the bone. Which, like, I don't know what he thought. What's the best case scenario of that spot? I guess you don't split your bicep to the bone, but it's like if the barbed wire is real, which I believe that it is, and you're going to throw your body into it, there's like no control over what could happen.
Yeah.
So he you see him, he tears like his arm here, and you immediately see him go like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
That yeah, that is no good. And he yells at Fonzie. Fonzie goes and grabs duct tape from the ringside table, and Sabu duct tapes up his arm so that he can continue the match. And again, this is just the legend of Sabu continues to grow. It's like, hey, did you hear about the match where he used fucking duct tape to close the giant wound in his arm so he could keep wrestling? That sounds badass, man. How do I get a hold of that?
Yeah.
Like it. He's like a folk hero. It's the legend of John Henry's hammer, or at some point. But I don't love watching these matches. Like they're not good as
semi style
aesthetically, and then it's just how much can somebody get hurt? Like the end of this match is also famous because Sabu grabs a bunch of barbed wire, wraps it around himself, while Terry Funk is also wrapped in barbed wire, laying on a table, and Sabu leg drops him with the extra barbed wire through the table. But now everybody's fucking wrapped up in barbed wire. So
yeah, they are caught like
yeah,
it's a spider web of barbed wire, and they because they're fucking maniacs. They climb into the ring, but neither of them can really move.
Yeah,
and they're like kind of and this is how crazy Terry Funk is. Because neither of them can move. They're completely covered in barbed wire. And Sabu covers Funk for a pin.
And you figure,
hey Terry, this is probably the end of the match. You're probably gonna take it. Listen, I'm throwing you a rope. You take that rope. That crazy motherfucker kicks out. He kicks out at 2.
Yeah. He's like, there's more match planned.
Oh, listen, we're telling a story, brother.
I'd really like to get to the spot where I put you in the spinning toe hold. Like,
I spent all night nailing nails into that bat that's under the ring.
Yeah, so like, Funk kicks out, and I think you can see Sabu like talking to Terry Funk, being like, "Hey, man."
Hey Terry, neither of us can move.
Yeah, Terry to Terry Brunk to Terry Funk. I'm stuck, brother. I can't get out of here. And so they don't really do anything else. Like
Terry Funk's on his back and goes, admit you're a pussy. Admit you're a pussy and I'll do it.
You know that song, Who Do You Love? 87. I walked 87 miles of barbed wire. That was about me.
I've also got a Cobra Snake for a necktie that's also under the ring. And I'm going to hit you in the
head. That's the big surprise.
He's got so many things under the ring.
So
there's goddamn sharks down there. I spent $30,000 to get a lemon shark, and we're going to use it, God damn it.
My brother Dory Funk has trained an army of baboons to do the craziest spots you've ever seen.
It was a lot of legwork, but they are a close-knit faction of baboons now.
They're a lean, mean army of baboons that will tear a man apart at my whim. So
I think I can squeeze out of this barbed wire.
Call the baboon army.
Yeah, maybe they can get me out.
So Sabu pins Funk. Funk kicks out. Sabu is like, hey man, I'm just gonna pin you again. Maybe don't kick out. And he pins Terry Funk in what would normally be a kind of anticlimactic situation, but I think is more of a thank God the match is over now situation.
Well, and it kind of
And
it helped the eventual finish that Terry kicked out of the first one.
yeah, maybe that was part of it. He's like, I gotta get one. The baboons will lose respect for me as the alpha if I don't at least kick out of one.
And they say once you lose it, you're never gonna get that back again.
You don't understand our nightly sojourns. I'll have to move to the back of the pack. They'll leave me as an old, weak member of the tribe.
I can't eat ticks off of their backs for any longer.
So Sabu, hey, congrats, ECW champion. You know,
Yeah.
he wins the belt. They have to spend a lot of time untangling these two guys. Like, people have wire
Do they come
cutters.
out with like wire cutters and stuff?
Yeah, they come out with wire cutters. In the longer clip of this that I've seen, there's a like legitimately a piece of barbed wire very close to Terry Funk's eye. And it's, I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny because he keeps going, my eye. And there was a piece around his neck that they were like pretty worried about. So they're like, finally cut everybody free. And it's like, okay, thank God it's over. So Heyman was quoted as saying, that was the last barbed wire match in the history of ECW because I could not in good conscience subject anyone else to that level of brutality. Sabu ripped his arm open in the barbed wire and ended up receiving more than 100 stitches, but didn't stop the match. He continued to wrestle after taping his own arm together so that they could continue. And I watched a video with Sabu where he said he had 150 stitches in his arm from that.
So this was, goddamn. So we've seen a barbed wire Terry Funk match in ECW in '97, I think.
No, what
So maybe
I think what you're thinking of is we watched, it was ECW, but it was at one of the one night stands. It was Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk.
it was at one of the one night
And
stands. When Terry Funk falls into the barbed wire and he's like twitching.
yeah, you get stuck in the barbed wire.
And it's a bunch
Yeah.
of, God damn it again.
I hope the baboons didn't order this on pay-per-view.
I told them to just leave this to me.
Yeah, so we have seen another Terry Funk.
Just regular one fall, I said.
We have seen Terry Funk in another barbed wire match.
Is that the same match when he's got the ladder on his head and he's just spinning?
Classic Terry Funk, man. Look,
fuck, I love Terry Funk.
You pay for the funker. He's putting that ladder on his head.
What's his ranch called?
The Double Cross Ranch.
The Double Cross Ranch.
Yeah. So Sabu wins this match heading into a pay-per-view the following weekend, where he loses the ECW title to Shane Douglas in a triple threat between him and Terry Funk and Shane Douglas. But again, I was watching a shoot interview with Sabu today where he said, I was not upset that they took the belt off of me because I couldn't really wrestle. My arm was fucked up. So
yeah, that's true.
You know, it was fine.
It takes a while for something like that to heal.
Yeah. So then we just had a couple of short things. There's one, he stays with ECW until the beginning of 2000. And I think we talked about it last week. There's a rumor that he was going to sign with WCW for a big money contract. I don't know how much money that is, but several $1,000s a year to finally get paid for, you know, his years of toiling away at ECW. And Heyman blocked it by saying that Sabu was under contract with ECW at the time. And it was really easy to get out of those ECW deals because I don't think that they were really put down. But Sabu doesn't go. He doesn't go to WCW. But he doesn't wrestle in ECW for the last year that they're in business.
That's Heyman getting his receipt for the New Japan thing.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know if he got froze out because he loses to Rob Van Dam at Guilty as Charged 2000. And then he wrestles one more TV match, and then he doesn't come back. So the last year of ECW's existence, there's no Sabu. But he also can't make any money in WCW. Uh,
Yeah.
and so then WCW goes out of business. Now ECW and WCW are out of business. There's really nowhere for him to work. So he just, he goes to Japan. He plies around the indies. He has several stints in TNA where like TNA weirdly for a few years had like a pretty good hardcore division and had kind of taken in a lot of the ECW guys like Rhino and Raven. And they had a big guy named Abyss who was a really good like hardcore wrestler. And they had like a good little division for a while. Jeff Hardy, whenever he was in TNA, him and Sabu had some good matches and stuff. So there's a YouTube video that has the best of Sabu that TNA put out that's like 2.5 hours long. And so that's like an
Oh wow.
interesting later thing in his career. And so then when WWE revises and brings back ECW for One Night Stand, Sabu is at the first One Night Stand and helps Rob Van Dam against Rhino, I believe, and him and Rhino have a match. And then but right before the second One Night Stand, they announced they're bringing ECW back as a full time brand, and they're assigning some of the old ECW guys to deals to kind of give it credibility. While the real intention is to have a lot of their guys who don't have a lot of experience wrestle on ECW TV to get exposure before coming up to one of the main brands. Like the Miz is technically an ECW guy, for WWF ECW.
I heard a funny The Miz story a couple days ago. Do you know who Ryan Russillo is?
I feel like that.
He's a funny. I think I think he might be exclusively a basketball guy, but I know him because he's on Bill Simmons' basketball podcast a lot, The Ringer. Well, I guess it's just Bill Simmons' podcast, but he comes on to talk basketball a lot. He's very funny, but he's telling this story that he's at this party with a bunch of celebrities, and he's standing there and he sees the Miz, and he might have been in town for a wrestling thing. I can't remember what he was there for, but he sees the Miz, so he walks up to the Miz, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going, Miz?" And he's like, and the Miz is like, "We've already done this." And Russillo's like, "What?" And he's like, "We've done the whole like, who are you? Who am I? Like, how you doing? Type thing. I could just, we don't need to do this again."
Right.
And Ryan Russillo was like, "That was the biggest dick move that anybody's pulled on me in my life." He said that he was really like bothered by it at first.
Yeah. The Miz big timing, he feels like it would hurt.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
funny. Like, and I love the Miz because he's a dickhead.
Yeah. ECW
Like
alum, the Miz is gonna take you down a
the Miz,
notch.
the Miz versus Blue Meanie. That's a match I would have wanted to see.
Yeah. So there's
Did Sabu ever fuck up the Blue Meanie?
I'm sure at some
I'm
point,
sure.
but I sent Andrew the short clip of, unfortunately for Sabu, like the best, most memorable thing that he did two memorable things. He had a really great match with Rey Mysterio at One Night Stand 2, where he DDT'd him through the goddamn.
Yeah, that was a great match. Super cool match.
And there's a clip where Van Dam and Cena are doing a contract signing for their match at One Night Stand 2, and they get in a fight, and Sabu leg drops John Cena through a table in like one of the craziest sort of, what a weird universe we live in, where Sabu and John Cena interacted with each other, and John Cena let Sabu leg drop him through a table. Like there's a lot of room for error
Yeah.
in that thing, but like it was really fucking cool, And then Sabu and Cena had a match, a lumberjack match, which is also like a weird piece of history to think about. Like those guys shared a ring.
Did Sabu was he known to be stiff? Did he hurt guys? Like, was there anything like that?
He said that
I mean, he's no Samoa Joe, but
sure. He said that he wasn't. He said that, like in the interview I watched with him today, he's like, if I'm hurting somebody, that's not the point. He's like, my uncle taught me it's supposed to look like it hurts, but not actually hurt.
yeah.
And then, but I've heard other guys say like, yeah, it was, it's stiff. The stuff hurts, but I guess one of the things with Sabu was like he'd throw a punch and it wouldn't hurt, and he'd say sorry, and then he'd throw the one that really hurt like right behind it somehow. Like he couldn't gauge the thing. I think that's a Chris Jericho story.
The sorry got him a little bit of grace, so he's like, you know what? Okay, you're being cool about this. All right, because there was a punch at the beginning of that Japanese match, and I can't remember who threw the punch or who took the punch. that was real. I mean, it
Yeah.
like a guy got punched in the head, hundred
the
percent.
the fire probably upped the ante as
They're
far as
probably
the
thinking
work
about the
goes.
fire way too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Sorry, dude. I was thinking about the Inferno. I apologize.
the last thing that I sent was there's a clip from a Paul Heyman interview where they were talking about who deserved more credit than they got, who deserved more than they ended up with, and he was talking about Sabu. He was like, the main guy that comes to mind is Sabu. Uh, you know, everybody took from Sabu's style. Everybody aped things that he did. And through various things, Heyman doesn't mention himself, but Heyman is one of the things. But through, for
Yeah,
various
that
reasons,
is true. He didn't
uh,
mention that at all.
but Sabu was not always a savvy businessman. Sabu had personal issues, that have come to
he
light.
it seemed like he like alluded to like drugs or booze
Yeah,
or something.
like there were outside of the ring issues with Sabu, and there were some inside. Like he was a guy that took a lot of advice from the Sheik, from his uncle, obviously, and the Sheik didn't lose for years and years and years, but he didn't lose for years and years and years until it drove his territory into the ground. Like eventually, the Sheik needed to lose. People weren't going to pay anymore to watch him throw the fireball in the babyface's face again.
Eventually, your face needs to be in the doo doo.
Right. And so I think, like fucking over ECW on that booking for New Japan, or like not being being sort of difficult to work with in WCW, or you know like in WWF, he made a lot of enemies too. Like he was just a guy that didn't take any bullshit, but he didn't live in a time in wrestling where you could be a guy who didn't take a bunch of bullshit because there was always another guy to work for. Like
Well, yeah, and this wasn't the era where freaking Harley Race had a gun in the locker room. You know,
right.
like this is once again, like you're talking about. He is a handshake. He's the perfect handshake between classic and modern wrestling. Like,
Right.
and that's part of it. It seems like he wanted to be like a dirty territory wrestler, but he's dealing with these multi-million-dollar television contracts now.
Right.
Like,
Well, and all the advice he's getting is from a guy who was a territory wrestler and really successful for a long time. But the formula is not the same. Once, like you said, you're dealing with like three companies essentially. And he was the biggest star in ECW for a long time, and was the thing that put ECW on the map. You could put Sabu versus anybody; it's a dream match. Um, but it also hurt him in certain ways because he doesn't talk, he doesn't do promos, and he doesn't like him being on TV every week wrestling random guys isn't the best way to uh to showcase him. Like he is a guy who comes in, burns the thing to the ground and then disappears, but there's nowhere for him to disappear to and come back. Like if he's the fixture on your television, it's more
well,
difficult.
yeah, and that's the issue with his character is like, uh, far be it from me to tell him there's anything wrong with what he did, but he can't talk. You just can't talk
Yeah.
because you're from India. People from India talk in a very specific way.
And if you watch Sabu shoot interviews, that's not how he talks.
He talks like he's from Michigan.
Yeah.
So like he would have to do an accent,
Tough.
and Indian accent would have looked weird with what he looks like. So he would have had to do some like probably vague Middle Eastern accent,
Yeah.
which like, and this is ECW. It's not like it's not even like a moral ethical issue. It's
Right.
more of like that's going to look really stupid. And
It's
like,
gonna be hokey. It's
yeah,
not. Yeah. Well, and like
then you're,
the foreign menace was dead. The idea of the foreign menace at that point is not a concept. It had worked in wrestling for decades, but it wasn't in the 90s a thing that people were buying into.
and that would have been the niche that he was building himself into. It would
Right.
have been the foreign menace, and like, so he can't talk. Period. And
Right.
I'm fine with that, but you also probably have a ceiling to how long you can be on top. Like you can be on top, but you can't be on top. Like especially in modern wrestling, you can't be on. Did the Sheik talk?
No, I don't believe that the Sheik really ever talked either, but he might have had managers, like, having Alfonso there helped, and, like, the interactions with him and Van Dam and Alfonso were always good because it was like Sabu was the cranky, serious one, and then Van Dam is always kinda goading him, and then Fonzie is the one doing the promoting for him. But like the Taz Sabu build worked so great because Taz is cutting all the promos and Sabu is not there. They're not. He's not having to answer in response to Taz, and then when he shows up, then it's this electric sort of atmosphere. You
Of
finally called in the boogeyman, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. Of the big three managers, Cornette, Heyman, Heenan, who do you give Sabu to? Because I think I have an opinion on that.
Ooh, I think. Well, I said it earlier, and I stand by. So my order is Cornette. I think is third. I don't think that Sabu's vibes with Cornette's vibe in the same
Yeah,
way. Cornette could do it. Obviously, he's a great manager, but
yeah,
I go Cornette, then I go Heenan because I think Heenan is like incredibly talented, just one of the most talented dudes in history, and he had Foreign
probably the
Menace.
goat. Yeah,
Yeah, he had Foreign Menace, like people in his stable and stuff, but I don't think that Sabu's the right kind of character necessarily for him. I think Heyman was the perfect avatar to be the guy who promoted Sabu because he was younger then, he was a little closer to what people were into. He cuts great promos. I think Sabu and Heyman, even though Sabu didn't make the kind of money that he should have, like ECW's in so much worse shape if Sabu isn't their guy for all those years because
yeah.
they worked together perfectly. And most of Sabu's greatest stuff is with Heyman coming up with the stories.
I think that's a great answer. The funny thing is, I think I do Cornette, and the
Really,
reason the reason that I think I do Cornette is Cornette. It's somehow where they worked well together, but Cornette gets so fucking fed up with this guy, and like he can't control him at all.
right?
And Sabu sometimes goes off the rails and even like doesn't really hit Cornette, but scares Cornette,
Yeah,
and because I completely see what you're saying, and this might be the best way to do it. Like in terms of like Heyman is really good at presenting, but when Heyman would present Sabu, he presented him in a very serious, like like screamy, like to
right.
the point way, which is a really good way to do it. But I think Cornette being a little bit over his skis with this guy. But the guy's making him money, and like he's the only guy that Cornette's the only guy that Sabu will listen to, but Sabu doesn't always listen to Cornette,
Right.
and the chaos that would come with that, I think would be pretty sick. And Cornette taking this is like a thing that they all do, but the Cornette and Heenan did this better than anybody, taking the like social credit for being tough from the guy that they're standing next to. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
So like I think
Well,
I
and
think I
and
would
it
love to see like that.
it would be easy then. So you do that. You introduce Sabu as the wild man for whoever. And this idea that you're espousing works
Yeah.
great for Heenan or Cornette. But let's say we
Yeah,
stick
yeah.
with Cornette. Cornette brings this guy in as the ultimate, madman against the baby faces. Now it's Sabu, and you don't know what Sabu's going to do. He can throw a fireball. He'll put your ass through a table. He'll do
Yeah.
barbed wire. All this stuff.
Like
But
his Cornette's mom made a deal with somebody. She was like traveling abroad,
right,
and
yeah,
she got this guy for him or
the
something like that.
madman of India or whatever,
Of
yeah.
India, yeah,
And then, but eventually, the fans get behind Sabu because they see he's being mistreated, and maybe
yeah,
and he's so spectacular you can't help but root for the things that he does, and eventually, Cornette goes too far, and Sabu pushes him down, and now Sabu's your babyface. You could
yeah,
easily, and now Cornette has to bring in a new army of heels to take on Sabu as a top babyface now. Like that's a really easy way
yeah,
to do that story that would work great. I think Sabu was so perfect for what wrestling needed to become in the
yeah,
nine in the 90s and I think Heyman was ahead of people in terms of how, like, I mean, he's doing old shit to present Sabu, but he's doing it in a new media kind of way, but it's still, the formula is the same.
Yeah, and he was. I mean, Sabu was synonymous with ECW for so long. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to give him to anybody Heyman. But just if I had a time machine and a magic wand, like to
Yeah.
just or just like I could be like, if you could just get a DVD, what would it look like
Yeah.
if Jim Cornette, just give me the highlight reel of Jim Cornette managing Sabu for 15 years or like
Yeah.
or not even for 15 years, but you know what I mean, like
That would
starting
be
in
sick.
92 or 3 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. There's yeah, so I think like Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, basically all your guys now that are high flying guys, like they all owe a debt to Sabu. I see Jeff Hardy, or I see Sabu so much in the stuff that Jeff Hardy
Oh yeah,
did and
for sure.
does, and it's like, so yeah, Sabu will never get the full credit that he deserves. He was too, and he was ahead of his time. He's like the Pixies, like it's, and then they took it and they made it Nirvana, where it's like they made it into the mainstream thing,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate, but it's like he does have a legacy that's pretty unimpeachable. I think his matches still to this day are very watchable and
Yeah,
entertaining,
they
and
are.
I think it's easy to see where the business is now based on a bunch of Sabu's influence. He's not the only guy, but there's a lot of Sabu in what people do now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Sabu's Die Hard, and like a lot of the modern stuff that we see now is getting into like the Fast 9, Fast X, Fast 8 shit. Like
Yeah.
where it's like Die Hard took itself a little bit more seriously. There's not as many things that are unbelievable in there. There's more story in there. It's but it's still an action movie, right?
Right.
And then now it's a little bit more, okay, then a fucking car drives through a helicopter.
Right.
You know what like that type of thing. So I that's why I really appreciate Sabu, uh, because like I mean to tie it around to the very beginning of this, it is a molding of old and new.
Yeah. Just a quick little thing at the end. Obviously we didn't watch all of Sabu's matches. We didn't watch all of Sabu's greatest matches. A few match recommendations for anybody out there who hasn't seen them. These are pretty easy to find. The night the line was crossed is Shane Douglas versus Terry Funk versus Sabu in a triple threat, the first promoted triple threat in ECW for the world title. This is 1994, I believe, and this was a big deal. This was like the match that ECW hung their hat on for a while, where they're like, "We're serious wrestling. Check this shit out. Like, you're not going to see this anywhere else." Um, Heatwave '98, maybe one of my favorite matches of all time. We watched it before, so I didn't want to do it again. Rob Van Dam and Sabu versus Jinsei Sasaki and Hayabusa from FMW for the
Okay.
tag team titles. That match is fucking sick. It's it's
I
really
don't remember
great.
it off the top of my head, but I'm sure it was
Yeah,
a couple years ago that we
yeah.
watched it.
Um, their match against the Eliminators at Crossing the Line Again, where they wrestle a ladder match for the tag titles on a ladder that is not as sturdy as the one that I currently have in my garage. Uh, this is not a wrestling gimmicked ladder; it's a real flimsy Home Depot ladder. That's an excellent match. From his time in TNA, there's a match called Monsters Ball 2 that you can find on YouTube, which is Sabu versus Rhino versus Jeff Hardy versus Abyss uh, in like a hardcore crazy match. The fun thing about this match is they said beforehand everybody was locked in solitary confinement for the last 24 hours. Like, that's part of the match contract.
Oh, they had to
uh,
crazy him up real quick.
yeah, they're like, you think this is crazy? Jeff Hardy does a swanton bomb, one of the craziest swanton bombs ever in this match. It's worth
Hell yeah,
checking
dude.
out. And then
He was like,
finally,
Sabu, I love you. Thank you for everything.
you're my entire style.
Yeah.
Maybe the best match him and Taz ever had at Living Dangerously '99 to unify the FTW and the ECW world title. Funny quick story, Andrew, I forgot to tell you. So Taz while the ECW champion was injured, Shane Douglas at the time, he created the FTW title, the Fuck the World title.
Fuck the world title. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. That we watched some of that.
But then, as part of the storyline, so Taz gets this belt made. It has Taz's name.
Is this when he was doing the promos with the towel on his head?
Yeah, towel on the head.
Yeah.
But he's got the belt that says Taz on it, the nameplate.
Yeah.
But the nameplate's not removable because Taz is like, well, who's ever going to win this belt from me? It's made up. And
Yeah.
so, in a match, in a storyline, to be able to get a world title shot, Taz suplexes Sabu through a table, fucks him up, and then lays down and lets Sabu pin him for the FTW title. So Sabu wins the FTW title. And then they have this match, and Sabu has taken a piece of masking tape and put it over the name Taz and written in Sharpie Sabu, which is very funny because he's like, I'm the champ right now. So
that shit says Sabu now.
yeah. I don't know if you know who the champ is. Go ahead and read that. That says Sabu. So those are just a few extra. If you're interested in seeing some other highlights of Sabu's career, there's a ton of his stuff on YouTube. Like you could really go down a rabbit hole here.
It looks like he did quite a few interviews too. By the way, that Living Dangerously match got 3.5 stars. That is the best out of the Taz matches on the pay-per-views, at least that I'm seeing.
Yeah, so and it's a pretty good match. Yeah, there's a few different shoot interviews that he did once he was like, oh yeah, I can talk. And I'm kind of semi-retired and there's money to be made by talking now, and so some of them are interesting. I find Sabu not to be the best shoot interview because he's nice to everyone and he doesn't have a lot of he doesn't have insight into the other things that are going on, and he's not being lascivious, like he's not telling crazy stories or whatever, like because they'll ask him about other stuff that's going on, like, oh, what did you think of the Tommy Dreamer Raven thing? And he's like, I was really just focused on my stuff and what I was doing, or like I didn't even really know what I was doing half the time, so like he didn't know about, he doesn't have insight into the other things, so it doesn't make the interviews great.
Didn't talk much.
Yeah, and he just seems like a genuinely pretty nice guy. He doesn't want to talk bad about people, which is great. I'm not for talking bad about people, but in shoot interviews, you need opinion.
So it makes them fun a lot of the time.
Yeah, so they're still interesting just because he never talked. He's got years of stories, so those are also there to check out. That's it for us, though. We are done. Obviously, rest in peace, Sabu. We stand a legend. We got we got his parachute pants hanging in the rafters, not the Raptors.
100%.
Yeah,
we got him hanging in the Raptors too.
Yeah. So that's it for us this week. Next week we are doing another match off the 101 matches to watch list. What number are we doing, Andrew?
37. Shout out to Clerks.
Number 37 on this list. A match we've watched, but I know a match that you love. The Hart Foundation of Brett, Owen, Davey Boy, Neidhart, and Brian Pillman versus Steve Austin, Ken Shamrock, Goldust, and the Legion of Doom. That's a Canadian Stampede, 1997.
Hell yeah, dude!
Hell
we
yeah,
get to talk
brother!
About my favorite show of all time.
Yeah, this is a good one, and that'll be fun. So we'll be back with that next week. Until then, obviously, we'll be back next week. It's the return of the Funker. I'm the Funker now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm the Funker. The baboons, Dusty.